Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new Dutch Angular Group online meetup. So today we have a very special guest. He's been around here earlier last year, but he has some new stuff to share with us. Before we go to the panelists and the speaker, Wallaby provided again some licenses to give away. So if you have a good question or something, we will drop at the end and provide you with this license. It's a Wallaby JS license or a Quokka JS license. So ask your questions, and maybe you're one of the lucky persons who will win this. And we got also like a special thing going on. We are going to hop on a Hangouts after this session on Angular Nation, where you can ask all your questions in person to Aris and maybe Bjorn or Sander if they will join us, and you can just chat with each other and hang out with us. But before we go to our speaker, let's go to our panelists. Bjorn, you had a busy week. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I'm looking forward to this talk. I've met Aris before. Always fun times. I'm really looking forward to what you got in store for us tonight, man.
Great. Sander, how are you doing? How's Scully doing? Is it good?
Scully is doing perfectly, and I pretty soon have like an announcement, but I cannot announce it just yet.
Ooh.
Oh.
Next week?
I'm just teasing now.
We'll wait for it.
Yeah, you have to wait for it. There might be like a big speed up, like a factoral speed up.
Ooh.
So
definitely everybody look for Scully, look what's going, and watch Sander's tweet. Maybe he will just give a sneak peek somewhere. I don't know, maybe. Okay, enough said. Let's go to our speaker. Aris, how are you doing, man?
I'm fine, thanks very much. I'm very happy to be here because, Angular Dutch Group was one of the first technical talks that I have ever made. So I'm very happy to be here to talk to you again. And I have come with some great stuff, some new stuff with Electron. Yeah.
Oh, let's go then. Let's share it and glad to have you again.
Let's go.
Cool.
Okay. Your screen is up, so the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. My name is Aristeidis Bampakos. I'm from Greece. You can call me Aris if you want, because my name is a bit strange to pronounce in English. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to electronify your Angular application. And specifically, when I'm saying electronify, how to run your Angular application, any Angular application, in desktop using Electron. So what we're going to see today is we will see some basics of the Electron framework. We will also see how to integrate an Angular application with Electron, two different approaches. And finally, we will see how to get rid of all these that I have talked at the first, and how to use a new library that I have created for removing all the boilerplate from you. So let me say some things about me first. I work as a front-end web developer at Plex-Earth in Greece. I'm a Google developer expert for the Angular framework, and I'm also a co-organizer at a meetup here in Athens, the capital of Greece, which is called Angular Athens. Also, I work as a senior Angular instructor at a company called Code.Hub. It is a private institute where we teach the Angular framework to other developers and individuals. I'm a very huge fan of the Assassin's Creed, and also I'm author of Pact. I have written one book, which is called Learning Angular 3rd edition. It is this book, which is destined for beginners, and it shows how to create an Angular application from scratch, up to how to deploy it to a hosting provider. There is a bonus chapter in this book where you can see how to create a real-world Angular application from scratch. And today, I'm very happy to announce that my second book has already been announced to pre-order. It is called Angular Projects, 2nd edition, and it is destined for intermediate and advanced advanced users of the Angular framework. It showcases how to combine the Angular framework with 10 different technologies. For example, one chapter is how to create a mono-repo application with NX and NGRX. Another one is how to hold on a minute, please.
Yeah, sure. Take your time, man.
Thank
First
you.
off, I like the new book already. I like the colors on it. So
Yeah, good design on that cover. Very cool.
Thank you very much. So I have added a link in this slide where you can register. You can put your email and you can register your. Sorry, can you excuse me for a moment, please? Sorry.
Sure thing. Yeah. So we can talk about the book, I guess. In the meanwhile, Jeff, have you seen his first book, the one aimed at beginners?
Yeah, I've looked at it a bit, and I've heard a couple of stories of Aris because we talked about it. I've not yet read it. I think Sander has it, or like a copy on it on his desk. So,
you're Sander. Yeah. The classic mistake. Oh, I don't think he can hear us. Oh no. But you're muted, Sander. I'm not sure if you can hear us.
I can hear you.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Don't worry about it.
Looking at your first book. So
okay.
We're looking forward on this one. We're definitely going to look at it.
Yeah, but it's still your show. So if you're ready to continue, let's have it.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Let me align my slides. So every chapter in this book is a different project that you can create with the Angular framework. For example, you can create a mono-repo application with NX DevTools and NGRX. You can create an application with Scali that Sander mentioned. You can create an Electron application, of course. I have included a chapter for this. And for example, an application with Ionic. So if you want to get notified when this book will be available, you can click on this link that I have put or scan the QR code and you can fill in your email so that you get notified when it will be available. An estimation is that it will be released around May or June. So enough with my new book. Let's go to the real stuff. So what is Electron? Electron.js is a JavaScript framework that is used to build cross-platform desktop applications with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It is an npm package that you can install using the standard command npm install -d electron, and we pass the -d switch because Electron is used only for the development purposes and not for runtime. I mean, we use Electron to package our application as a desktop one. So Electron is built with Node.js and Chromium, and the real advantage is that you can leverage your existing web skills, if you're a web developer, to create desktop applications without the need to learn a new language, for example, C# or C++. Many popular applications have been built with Electron, for example, Visual Studio Code, Slack, or WhatsApp. In the website, there is an extensive list where you can find all the applications. I mean, you will see applications that your mind doesn't go that they have been created with Visual Studio Code. So, let's see some things about the architecture of Electron. Electron consists of two different processes. The main process, which is used to accomplish heavy tasks and calculations, for example, when you want to interact with the file system, and it is this process that gives you access to native resources of your system using Node.js API. The render process is responsible for managing the user interface of your application. For example, imagine that it is an index.html file where you have put all your application assets, all your JavaScript, all your CSS, and other HTML stuff. So, Electron follows the multi-process architecture of Chromium. So, in a typical Electron application, you just have one main process where it can communicate with different render processes. Now, these processes operate in complete isolation between each other. So if a renderer wants to communicate with another renderer, it needs to go through the main process. Okay, let's see now how we can create an Electron application. It is actually a JavaScript file, a single JavaScript file that we call usually main.js, because when you create Node.js application, you name it main.js or index.js. So most of the times will be main.js, but this is up to the developer. So it is a single main.js file, JavaScript file. First, we need to import two artifacts from the Electron npm package, the app and the browser window. The app, you can think of it as your browser. And the browser window, you can think of it as the tab of your browser. So an app can have one or more browser windows. In this example, we create only one browser window using the constructor of the browser window, and we pass two options, the width and the height, which is the dimensions of the desktop window that we want to create. The constructor takes so many other options that you can check out on the Electron website. After we have created the browser window, we call the method load file, and we pass an HTML, a single HTML file. For example, the index.html file. So after we have created a function create window, we call this function after the when ready promise of the app object has been resolved, because we need to make sure that we can create a window only after the global app object is ready. So simple. Let's take a moment and see a high-level overview of an Electron application. I like to think of an Electron application as an ice cream. Most of us like ice creams, right? So the main process is the bottom part of the ice cream. The top process, when we take the bottom part of the ice cream and we put some flavors on it, for example, the flavors are the CSS, the HTML, and the JavaScript, we end up with an ice cream with three flavors, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That's cool. But what is going to happen when we want to add another flavor in our ice cream, which is Angular? Then it's a bit complicated, because remember that when I told you before in the sample code, that the window calls the load file method and passes the index.html file. So our main problem is how to communicate between the Electron and the Angular. So let's see how we could create our build pipeline in an Angular and an Electron application. So how to integrate both of them. First, we have the Electron code. We pass it through the Webpack using a Webpack configuration, and we output a single file called cell.js. At the same time, we take the Angular code and we pass it through the Angular CLI using ng-build, as we all know, and this will output the main.js. Now, notice here that I have configured the Electron code to output cell.js and not main.js because they do not interfere each other. So we have the cell.js, which is the Electron part of our code, and the main.js, which is the Angular part of our code. Both of these files will be outputted to the same dist folder. This is a dist folder that Angular CLI uses. So when we have both of them in the same dist folder, the main.js, the cell.js will easily find the index.html file of the Angular code. So we can then run in our command line the command Electron and pass the cell.js file, which is the Electron code. The cell.js will find the index.html file of the Angular code, and it will bootstrap our Angular application inside Electron. So this is This is a very complicated process if you want to do it by yourself. In the last slide, I have put a link to an advanced Angular Electron sample that I have in my GitHub profile that you can check it out. So, in case you don't want to work with this, with the process that I described you, with a single file index.html, what you should do? You could use an alternate approach, which uses the load URL method instead of the load file. And in this load URL method, we pass the URL of the Electron application that we serve using ngserve. So in this case, you can publish your application, you can deploy your application somewhere in a web server, and then you can write your Electron code and point to the URL of the deployed Angular application. This is a much simpler approach, right? Let's see some of the benefits of the two approaches. The file approach, which is on the left side as you see the screen, it is more secure because you only load an index.html file. So there will be it is difficult to have some security problems, some attacks such as XSS or some sort of attack through the web, because you load the index.html file using the file protocol from the file system. So you are more secure than the URL approach. The file approach also has a more complex deployment, as you saw, because you need to build both Electron and Angular into the same folder. So you have one unified build. On the other side, the URL approach, it has some security issues, of course, because the Electron code works with a deployed Angular application which is outside in the web, but the deployment is more simple because you just deploy the Angular application and then you run your Electron application that points to that URL. So in this case, you have also separate builds. For example, if you are in a company you can have one team working in the Angular application and another team working in an Electron application. So let's see how we handle communication inside an Electron application. So I have already said that we have the main and the renderer process. So how do they communicate? There is a technique called inter-process communication, or IPC, which is an asynchronous communication between the two processes. So we have the main and the renderer process communicate asynchronously between each other and exchange messages. We can accomplish this using two interfaces. The IPC main interface is for the main process, and the IPC renderer is for the renderer process. So they set up a common channel, and they can communicate by sending messages through this channel. In an Electron and an Angular application, the IPC main interface is usually written on the Electron code, on the Electron part, and the IPC renderer on the Angular part. Let's see an example. Here you can see an excerpt of the previous main.js file. You can see that we import the IPC main interface from the Electron npm package, and we also set a property called node integration to true inside the constructor of the browser window. We need to do this so that the renderer is available in the window, so that the renderer can be accessed from the Angular part. So after we have imported the IPC main interface, we can call the handle method, which is like we are adding an event listener. Okay, so the handle method takes two parameters. The first one is the name of the channel that we will use to communicate with the renderer. And the second parameter is an arrow function that will be called when someone sends a message to the pirates channel. in our case, the arrow function just returns an array of strings, of pirate names. So this is the IPC, this is the part of the code that we need to write to initiate the communication from the main process. Let's go to the renderer. The renderer process, we already said that we write it in the Electron. So we create a standard Angular service, and we also use an Electron service from a package called ngx-electron. This is a library which is a wrapper over the Electron API. It has helper methods so that you don't need to create your own wrapper. So we inject the Electron service in our service, and then we can access the IPC renderer property from the Electron service and call its invoke method. Now, this invoke method accepts a single parameter, which must be the same name of the channel that the IPC main has already set up. So here we are essentially saying, okay, main process, I want to call you in the pirates channel. Now, the IPC main, as we saw earlier, will listen to the pirates channel and will return a list of strings. Now, notice that this communication between IPC main and IPC renderer is promise-based. So you can use, if you want, async await in your components. Just a tip. Okay, so I have already shown to you two different approaches, how to integrate an Angular with Electron. But why should you do that if there is the NGX Electronify library that does it for you? So NGX Electronify is an Angular library that I have created. It is a builder, an Angular CLI builder actually, which allows you to run any Angular application, even an NX application, in desktop mode. So I will show you a demo now how this works. All right. Here I have created an Angular CLI application, a typical application, using ng-new. There's nothing fancy in this application, just the skeleton application that we get from ng-new. I have already installed ngx Electronify that you can install with ng add and then the name of the library. Okay, I have already installed that. So when you install it, you just need to run one single command and convert your application in desktop. But first, let's run the application with serve mode, as we serve it in Angular. So I will write ng-serve, sorry. Let's run it first with Electronify. Okay, so I type ng run the name of my application, which in my case is my app, and then desktop. Now this will start building our application, and it will open it inside a desktop window instead of the browser.
Exciting times. Waiting to see what's coming.
It's okay. I've already run it before. I'm pretty sure it will work.
Always great if a demo then corrupts or whatever.
It's still a live demo. Don't
yeah, you never know.
God. Yeah.
Oh no, don't say that. Okay, it compiled and then it opens. So you can see this is the Angular application rendered inside Electron. Let's make it bigger. So this window here is just a normal Chromium window. We have all the features that Chromium does, and Chrome, for example. If you go to, let me zoom it. if you go to View, Toggle Developer Tools, you will see that I have the same developer tools that I have in Chrome. I can inspect my code. I have a console. I also have a network. Usual stuff if you work with Chrome. Now, I want to show you something funny. If I open another Chrome window, right, and zoom it a bit, and go to HTTP localhost 4200, I can see the same application, right? Let me put them side by side.
Yeah, it's the same like the default Angular website.
Freshly generated.
Yeah, freshly generated.
So we have the same application rendered once in the browser and once in desktop. If I go and make a change, for example, I change my title, and let's say that it is on my Dutch app, and save it, and wait, and wait.
I can see the compiler going in the background there.
Yeah, you can see that the application reloads in both windows.
Oh, nice.
So you have the reload feature either in the Chrome or in the desktop. Now, okay, what's so special about that? You can develop a prototype for your application, and you can see it in the browser. You can have it in the browser window running, and you can have it also in the desktop, and see how it will look like in the desktop window. It is responsive inside an Electron window. Everything works because it is already a Chromium application. So there is also another option. If you go to angular.json and we go on the bottom, here's the configuration of the NGX Electronify. There, you can add some options that we have already added. For example, you can specify which configuration you want to run inside the desktop window. For example, I want to run the build configuration or another configuration that you have in your project. Also, there is a command that you can use when installing Electronify and specify which project, if you work with a monorepo architect, if you work with a monorepo application, which project I want to configure with Electronify. So there are some features that are very helpful for someone that wants to get his hands dirty with this library. Let me switch back to my slides. All right. So, what are the next steps with this library? First, we want to give the ability for exporting your application, your Angular application, as a desktop, as a single executable file, because now you can just preview as a desktop. You cannot take it and go away. Second, we want to integrate some Chrome extensions for Angular so that you can get a good debugging experience inside Electron. And third, we want to allow the developer interact with the Electron API through this library. For example, you want to create your own IPC communication mechanism. We want to allow that and to be able to do it through this library. Now, of course, all this would I couldn't do all of these features in the library without my friend Jeffrey Bosch, who is the organizer also in this meetup. So Jeffrey, thanks very much for all the work that you have put in this library, because you have a pretty solid knowledge on the builders, Angular CLI builders. That's why you are called the engine builder, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you.
No, thanks very much. So the last slide, I would like to tell some things about the security, because Electron is not a browser, right? But it looks like it is. Electron does not have all the security patches that, for example, Chrome has. And that's why we should be very cautious when we are using Electron. In the resources, in the last slide, which is after that slide, I have put a link to the security best practices from the website of Electron, where you can check it out. But please, we should not forget that Electron is another HTML, another web application. So whatever is valid for the browser, it is valid for the Electron, okay? So this is the slide that I have put with some helpful links. There is a link to the Electron website, to the quick start, how to get started with a simple application, some security best practices, an interview that I have given about securing Electron applications in the Real Talk JavaScript podcast, a link to the NGX Electronify, the advanced Angular Electron example that uses the approach that I have shown you, the first approach that I have shown you, which is with the parallel build, and also the NGX Electron API, the wrapper library. So what we see today, we saw the basics of Electron.js. We show two approaches, how to integrate Angular with Electron. The hard approach, which is by building the Electron and the Angular together. The easy approach with the load URL method. And finally, we show the most easy approach, which is by using the NGX Electronify library. So thanks very much, and sorry for the interruption at the beginning.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's life. It happens. It's work from home for everyone, right? So.
Well, first off, great work on the slides, and thank you again for the shout out. I really appreciate your work in the community that you're doing, and I'm great that I can help you back with this. So we got a couple of questions, I think, Bjorn, didn't we?
We do. There was one that I already started talking to because it interests me. It's by Mohammed Jalili. When working in an Electron environment, what are the benefits of Angular server-side rendering? This question is interesting to me because but I have very little experience with Electron, as I said in the chat as well. Like, in my opinion, or in my view, when you build your Electron app, it packages the whole Angular app when you do a production build, right? So there wouldn't be any servers involved anymore on deployment, would there? So then, is there even a possibility of doing server-side rendering when you're using Electron?
I don't know if there is a point to make Angular server-side rendering, because you can think of Electron as another server-side rendering technique.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Or as another pre-render technique, because there are many techniques for pre-rendering. There is Scali with Sander, there is Angular SSR, there is pre-render inside Angular SSR. There is a ton of them. So I don't see a point to make server-side rendering inside Electron application.
What I think is the difference, though, when you talk about regular server-side rendering, you optimize content or dynamic content or like templates into proper HTML, and that's something you cannot do out of the box with Electron. Maybe in combination with Scala you could, but
Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say that, okay, you could create a server-side render application to pre-render your content, and then take the pre-render content and put it inside the Electron shell.
Exactly.
That's a valid point, yeah.
Yeah, but it is not very useful because the Electron app is basically loading everything from the local hard disk. So
No faster server than your local computer, yeah.
It's not going to be that much faster. It's not going to be a measurable distance. It's a different thing. With Electron, you package up your whole application and you send it over to the customer, and he runs it on your own computer like VS Code or like any other application. Well, if you use server-side rendering, you're usually going to put it on a server somewhere that is accessible by the internet. So you have something like GitHub Pages or AWS S3 or another thing. So there are different deployment methods. I think Electron is really, really nice if you have to interact with other things that are on the computer. If you are building like a modeling thing or something that really takes really prefer to run in a local environment.
Yeah, fair enough. So he added up upon right there with that they did certain similar things with Ionic, but I guess that's a little different approach because Ionic is a wrapper indeed. So anyway, so I guess we get to the bottom of that point. That,
I think Ionic also has something like a wrapper application that is like Electron. So you have like I don't know how it's called, Ionic Native perhaps, or something like that, and you can it's mostly for Android apps if I recall correctly.
I know for sure that Ionic has the Ionic community has put some work, and they have created a project that is Ionic and Electron.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is not core. It is not in the core of Ionic. I think that they have it in the core, but they removed it, something like this. But I know there is a project, Ionic and Electron.
All right, cool. But I guess to get to the point of Mohammed's question there is that when you're using Electron, you will not necessarily use or need the benefits of server-side rendering. So yeah, in that regards, that's double work there. A question here from Thomas Nielsen, which I'll give a little disclaimer because I think it's not really necessarily directly connected to the topic we had with Aris, but maybe with people here with a lot of experience with Electron could give us a little insight. He's wondering how you would make an app like VS Code where features are extensions. So basically he's talking about the plugin system in VS Code. I guess the main underlying question is, does Electron allow that you actually talk to the local hard drive like you would in a Node.js application in a certain way? And Thomas, if I'm making an assumption that are completely wrong, please feel free to correct the question for me.
Yeah,
I can already see Sander's head going, that's an interesting question. How does that work?
The question is also based because VS Code is I think it is still Electron under the hood, or maybe they swapped it already. I don't know, but it was at some point it was Electron, and then I think they changed it for some reason. I'm not sure exactly, but I think there's the question coming from. Similar things like Microsoft Teams, that's also Electron based. So I think that people are debating like, okay, this is cool because Microsoft is adapting these kinds of techniques, and how can we do it on our own then?
Which is an interesting question, of course, because if you can talk to the file system from an Electron app, like you would when you're natively writing an app, you can do really cool things. You can write files or load from files, and you do all kinds of cool things for that. But the question then is, because Aris did notice, or did like in his future features part, talked about the Electron API, and I'm assuming you can do a couple things with the Electron API talking to the local file system. But is that the same as writing a program in Node.js, for example?
Yeah, the interaction with the file system is the same because the underlying infrastructure is the same. You just use Node.js API. You use the FS file, the FS library or the path library. Yeah. But Visual Studio Code has a marketplace for extensions. So I wouldn't create extensions from the local file system because I don't see a point in this.
But I think from the marketplace, you also download the actual plugin and whatever extension that is, and it loads it locally. Like it doesn't download it every time you start VS Code. So So they have to save or persist it somewhere on your file system at some point.
The thing is, basically, VS Code plugins are just going, are zip files that are unzipped in the local node modules folder and run from there. And they have like a specific plugin format, so they can be lazy loaded into VS Code. But you can do exactly the same thing inside of an Electron app.
Or an Angular app for that sense.
Or an Angular app. Yeah, but an Angular app, it's really,
a little bit more complicated, but yeah.
So you can fork the VS Code and continue from there, right?
That's the easy way. Yeah.
It's an interesting question, though. It's a very complex question, I guess. I don't think we can explain or like discuss all the ways you could do that and all the pros and cons in 5 minutes or something. So I guess that might be a very interesting question for a separate topic at some other point. But yeah, great question in that sense.
Yeah, Thomas, also, if you want to chat about this or have a little bit of discussion, where after this session, we're going to do a hangout session on Angular Nation. So then we can maybe go a little bit deeper on this specific topic. So you're always welcome to hang out or go with us and do the hangout session there to just have a chat around this. So I'm still curious, Aris. So you showed us the POC, right? And now we want to ship it to production. So could you go like a high level over what would be the next step for people then?
Yes. If you go for the second approach, you just deploy your Angular application in a web server, and then you just build your Electron application in production. So you can use Webpack or another open source library that they have in the community. For example, there is one that is called Electron-Builder that you can use to build your Electron application. So you deploy your Angular application on the web server, you package your Electron application, and you give the Electron application, the executable, to your customer, and you say, okay, you are good to go. So another advantage in this approach that I didn't mention was that you can update, you can make updates easily because you update your Angular application, which is on the server. How easy it could be? It's very easy. In the first approach, where you package your Electron application and your Angular application into the same folder, it's a bit difficult there because every time you have to make a change, you need to rebuild and give the executable again, upload it somewhere so that your customers can get it. In this approach, you again use a library, for example, the same library, Electron-Builder or Electron-Packager. The packager one can package your application can build your application and package it as an executable file for 3 operating systems: Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. So you can generate 3 separate executables, and you can upload it somewhere so that they can get it.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for that. Yeah. Sounds like reasonable. Okay. Great. So, does some of the panelists have any other questions?
Well, I had I was a little bit confused as we were going through the slides. There was the npm installed for a developer, the Electron JS as a first example. And then you moved into the NGX Electron, which is an additional or a different library from the NGX Electronify library that you authored, right?
It's not. I'm not the author of the library. It is a separate, and it is just a wrapper over the Electron API.
The Electron API itself, or the NGX? NGX?
No. The Electronify is an Angular CLI builder.
Okay.
The NGX Electron is a library, a wrapper library over Electron API.
Right. So that's the one that provides that Electron service that I saw, because I couldn't place where that came from at that point. So that was a little confused there, but I now understand. Yeah, it's just the intermediate step there. Yeah. There
is some thought to add to include in the Electronify some parts of the Electron API. So when you get Electronify, you get the builder to run your application, but you also get an Angular module that you can use to use specific Electron APIs.
Oh, exactly. So you get that module as part of that installation, sort of, and then you can use that through your app to communicate with the Electron API. I see.
That's
I
right.
understand.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
That clears it up for me. Cool.
I hope Jeffrey will have some time to work on that.
Yeah, I hope so too. That's my biggest problem at the moment, time. There's 24 hours in a day, but...
Yeah, but I mean, you still sleep for 8, right? So maybe cut that out for a while.
Sleep?
No, I understand.
Okay, so
I'm out of questions, so yeah.
Okay, well, then let's go to the giveaway. Did we find some candidates, Bjorn, to give away our free Quokka license and our free Wallaby license?
We're giving away 2 tonight?
Yeah, because we got some others also. We got even more.
Wow. Oh, so that's a little sneak peek for coming up, for soon things coming up. So make sure you hit that follow button or whatever it is on YouTube. Now, I think I'd like to nominate Mohammed Jali for one, because I think that was a very interesting question. Although, like in a different spirit, a very interesting question nonetheless. So I'd like to nominate him for that one.
Okay, so that's that. And do you want him for the Wallaby or for the Quokka one? You can pick.
Ooh, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of inclined to just ask him if he has a preference or not. So,
yeah, sure. So, Mohammed, if you're there, ping me. My Twitter handle is there.
Yeah.
And send me a DM on Twitter or on any way. I'm on Angular Nation. I'm on Discord. I'm all over the community. You can find me at my Twitter handle, and I will send you the link to redeem your license for Wallaby AS. So again, I think it's this Mohammed, right? Just to be sure.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. Okay. So
yep.
This Mohammed, contact me, and we will provide you the license so that you can try it out and use
congratulations.
it daily. Yeah, congratulations. So
thank you to the sponsor as well.
Yeah, it's great that they again just sponsored us. So Aris, thank you. We will definitely look for your new book that is coming up soon, and the rest of the people that are watching us. Thank you for joining us. Go to Angular Nation to join our Hangout session in a minute of 10, and we'll see you next time in April 1st. Thank you all. Bye bye.
See you next week.
Next week.